If you want to see the effect of CO2, then measure it in areas outside of urban areas. Cities, we already know, produce what's called a heat island effect. Cities are warmer than rural areas. If man is causing global warming, then the temperature should be higher in the country, and they just aren't. Okay? The temperatures are not noticeably higher in rural areas. So if...
Oh, 3 minutes.
That was a fascinating critique on science, so I want to talk a little bit about science and make a couple points that are very important. Okay? First up, where to begin? So, there are multiple different ways in which we collect temperature data. And there are multiple different organizations that publish this data. Not just the IPCC, which is a very reputable source, but we have the journal Nature, we have the journal Science. These have been around from the late 1800s. So, very reputable sources of science. The methods that we use to collect our temperature readings on the surface are buoy data, boat data. Keep in mind that the majority of our landmass is over water, or the majority of our surface area is over water. So we have a lot of ocean stations, and we have a lot of landmass stations as well. We have a lot of satellite data. We also have ice cores, we have VARs, and we have tree ring data, all supporting our claim. And a fascinating point that Mr. Gutt brought up that needs to be addressed is this heat island effect. The idea that if we're using thermometers in a city and taping that temperature and not adjusting it in any way, shape, or form, that it should be way hotter. Well, guess what? Scientists say, wow, cities are way, way hotter than the countryside. Potentially 8 degrees during the daytime. That is a discrepancy which no scientist disputes in any way, shape, or form. So the very notion that the heat island effect is not a factor that scientists work through is preposterous. They actually reduce the warming calculations using physics to calculate every single temperature recording in major cities to ensure that the heat island effect is accounted for. In other words, if we were cooking books, we would just let that temperature be what it was in the city, and then we would be trying to fool everyone like some delusional scientific conspiracy. But in turn, we reduce our temperature data, just as we've made some subtle adjustments to our sea surface data from looking at where the thermometers are located on boats versus on buoys and their closeness to water, and how the physics behind being close to a body of water and our atmospheric air temperatures can create a variation in some of the temperature that's taking place. We account for that. We make those adjustments, which are scientific, that not even climate skeptics are arguing against. So, Mr. Gutt is bringing up a point that even human contribution to climate change deniers are saying is not rational.
Stop. 3 minutes.
All right.
Alright, that's all well and good, Mr. Freeman, but like I said, integrity of the data is key to any real science. If you are intentionally altering the data, your data has no integrity. Chris Booker of the Telegraph claims that official temperature records have been systematically adjusted to show the Earth warming much more than the actual data would. Truss Johnson, who formerly headed climate research at the Iceland office, expressed surprise when current reporting disappears Iceland's sea ice around 1970, when a period of cooling nearly devastated this country's economy. So in other words, the data that they're using is showing warming when it was actually cooling. The same thing happens to sites in Paraguay. All the sites had their high temperatures adjusted downward and lower temperatures adjusted upwards in the 1960s. Records were changed all around the world: Australia, Canada, New Zealand, England, New York, Costa Rica, and Alaska, as Joseph Diallo and Anthony Watts said. Okay, in their report here, people